Welcome to No Limit Nerd. Today I'm taking a 3D skull I've designed in Blender, printing it into miniature, and painting it to look real. Well, semi-real. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let's get started. Okay, here we go. This is my first ever model that I created or sculpted in Blender. It was started with a sphere and then went into the sculpting tools and managed to create what I think looks like a relatively decent skull. It doesn't have a bottom jaw and isn't anatomically correct. But when you're printing for miniatures, I think it actually looks like a decent little skull. And with that, it was time to send it over to the printer to see exactly what this design would look like in miniature form. Okay, here's the 3D printed skull. It's about 2.5–3 centimeters long, and it does have a brim attached to it and a few supports that I'll need to get off, but luckily they snap off quite easily. There's a little bit there that I'm going to need to rough up or sand up to make it a little bit smoother and more skull-like. Here we go. So I add a little bit of fine grit sandpaper to it and make it ready for paint. And there we go. Not too bad. Right, the skull's on a support in my cardboard box spray booth. And I'm just giving it a coat of grey primer to seal in the plastic and to help fill in any of those printer lines a little bit before we get ready for paint. Alright, so with the skull now primed, it's ready to take it off the sand. If you can see in the background there's a couple of other skulls that might tend themselves to another little video soon. But the primer's done its job and filled in on a few of the lines, getting it ready for paint. So now with the paint, we select some dead white, pretty apt name. Add that to my custom made wet palette. Add some bone white as well. Give it that bit of a squidge. Some beastie brown into the mix, just to give that a bit of a darker tone of the browns when mixed together. And then some good old-fashioned black. Now with everything on my palette, it was time to give it all a bit of a mix. Mix some bone white with some white and some of the beastie brown to make a darker shade. Add a little bit of black in there. And then it's time to give the skull its base coat. So it's going to take a couple of coats to paint this skull. We start off with the bone white. There we go. Adding another little bit of a layer to it, and that's the final base coat complete, almost. Oh yeah, it's not looking too bad at this point. Still needs a few more touches. And then into the eye sockets we go, because we want to make them slightly darker to give them a little evilness, or that skull-like appearance, I should say. So I start off with the darker beastie brown, bone white mix, and then later on I'll get into the adding a bit of dark black and darken them up just slightly. Hard to see at this point. Here we go. At this point I'm adding a few little highlights into the mix, trying to get some subtle tone changes throughout the skull, because skull colours are not uniform. You have little highlights here and there, dark patches, that sort of thing. So I'm just a little bit of wet mixing on the actual skull thing before, whipping out the wife's hairdryer again. Give it a bit of a dry before the next coat. And now it's on to very much the same, just adding subtle changes to the skull and different patches. A little bit of highlights around the top of the skull. Just a little bit of dry brushing. I know I'm using the same brush I used for the rest of it. I'm just lazy. And now I've gone into the eye sockets again. You see me mixing up a little bit of the beastie brown with a little bit of black, just for subtle changes into the tops of the eye sockets where it's going to be the darkest part. And then I'm just adding some bone white mixed with the dead white for the teeth to make them stand out from the rest of the skull. And there we have it. It is pretty much complete at this point. I was quite happy. Let me know what you think and get ready for the reveal. If you've enjoyed this dive into the world of 3D printed miniatures, then don't forget to leave a comment and let me know what you think. You can also help me out by hitting the subscribe button and help support me with the least amount of effort. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.